Apple Watch Series 5. It's the compass. It's the always on display that separates it from the last gen. But looking at what everything the Apple Watch Series 5 can do is sort of the culmination of the ultimate Apple Watch-ness up until this point. There's a lot to like, but it's been far from perfect. Perhaps the least perfect Apple Watch we've had since the very first Gen 0. So let's talk about the Apple Watch Series 5 and hopefully help you guys decide who should pick one up. So I'm just gonna get this one out of the way. I've got the very unnecessary ceramic that I picked up because I honestly just wanted to see what it looked like on my wrists, and I fell in love with it. You do not need the ceramic Apple Watch. Traditionally, I've gone with the aluminum and it's been awesome. This generation though, there's a bunch of different case options. You could pick titanium, you've got steel, you've got aluminum, ceramic. You can pick whatever you want for your budget. So that out of the way, the Series 5 brings a few things that are different. I mentioned the always-on display and the compass. But for most intents and purposes, it's very similar to the Apple Watch Series 4. It's essentially the same system on a chip. It's the same CPU, same GPU as the Series 4. You've got double the storage now. You've got 32 gigabytes on board if you want to punch a bunch of apps on there versus 16 on the Series 4. So I want to start with some of the negatives of the watch. And I think what I'm experiencing with the current version of Watch OS 6 is what a lot of people are experiencing with iOS 13 when it launched. It's been buggy, like straight up call an exterminator, bugs crawling everywhere. I think people aren't noticing it as much because they're not generally doing as much on their watch as they are on their phones. But from my experience, it has not been as smooth as I'm used to, especially coming from the Series 4 with a very polished Watch OS 5. Some things have been plaguing me, and I will talk about battery life. When I put my kids to sleep at night, I generally put my watch into theater mode because I don't want it to glow and wake them up or be in their eyes. I'm trying to get them to just give me some peace and quiet with some quiet time. When I try to turn the watch back on, either by tapping the screen or pushing one of the side buttons, maybe 30% of the time the screen doesn't come back on. I'll keep tapping and pressing, then it'll come back on, and the processes were going on in the background. So it'll have opened up a third-party app. It just hasn't been consistent like previous versions of Watch OS. But I think the big metaphorical elephant in the room is battery life. And Apple stood up there and was like always on display to get the same 18-hour battery life that you got with the Series 4. And I want to preface this with, I'm a battery watcher. I have a battery complication on my watch. I like to know where things are at all times. It's a personality flaw. I don't like ever being late to things, and I like knowing where my battery's at so I can charge if I need to. It makes me anxious to see my battery dying. So battery life immediately was really bad. I was experiencing 30% worse battery life when I started using the watch versus the Series 4. I could generally go almost 2 days with the Series 4. By the time I put my watch down at night and picking it off the charger around 6:45, I was down to 10 or 15% at the end of the day, which was a bit terrifying. I was almost getting battery life if I was just on cellular the whole day. And I wasn't alone. There was Reddit threads after Reddit threads, and I was posting comments on Twitter and posting updates on watches, and I tried different things to try to get the battery life better. And I started looking at things that could have been the issue. I tried turning off app background processing. I tried turning off the noise meter. That impacted things slightly, but it was like a 2% difference. It didn't do that much to impact battery life. So I was a bit disappointed, and I was prepared to return the watch and just go back to my Series 4 that worked well and worked consistently. So I talked to what I think is the biggest Apple fan in our company, Matt Gonzalez, the guy who usually buys every Apple product and uses and generally likes the services. And he actually returned his Apple Watch Series 5 instead opting just to stick with his Series 4, a decision I think a lot of people who had last gen are going to do. So I wanted to hear what he had to say and why he sent his back.
But I think if you have the Series 4 Apple Watch, this is one that you can confidently just sit out. It's not because it's bad. It is great. I still love using it. But lately, I've been really thinking about these upgrades. And it's something I keep hitting on. You know, technology these days is so good that the year to year isn't necessarily worth that upgrade. We live in such a crazy time where even a smartwatch is so good that year over year, the differences are becoming smaller and smaller. That's a good thing. It saves us money in the end because we don't have to upgrade, But for those who are in that upgrade cycle, you're getting something that's going to last you a long time and is going to work really well. The Apple Watch is still one of my favorite products. I'm glad I have it, but I'm also glad I don't have to upgrade.
Apple issued an update. It was a 0.01 update that did improve things about 10%. It's been good enough now where I can get through a full day. And again, software can be improved, and I do believe this is a software issue. You've got watchOS 6.1 in beta, which by all accounts are fixing the majority of these problems. So we'll update this video a few months down the road and see if that rectifies the battery life. But that's been the summation of my problems, and perhaps a testament to the Apple Watch and how far ahead Apple is from the competition and the wearable side. I almost don't care about the bugs. And I think that's where you see the utility of the watch come into play. That's why I wanted to start with some of the negatives. So before I get to the positive, obviously doing this and being on YouTube, I've gone through every generation of Apple Watch. And the changes from generation to generation don't appear to be that drastic. But when you're coming from an older, Series 0, 1, or 2 to the 5, the changes are huge. So our own Robert Rosenfeld upgraded from an Apple Watch Series 2, and his experiences have been a bit different than mine because his perspective is different. So I want to hear what he had to say about the Series 5.
So I started with the original, so the Series 0. Used that for a number of years and then jumped on the Series 2. Didn't see a big reason to switch when the Series 2 first came out. So it wasn't until the Series 3 came out that I jumped on the Series 2. So kind of always stayed a little bit of a version or two behind the current just because I didn't see a real big reason to upgrade every year. So the first changes I noticed with the 5, it wasn't even the highlights that Apple talked about. The always-on display was nice and the compass was not super useful, but it was just kind of the watch itself, the bigger display, going from a 42 to 44 millimeter screen that went all the way to the edge, the better battery life, the faster processor. Those things kind of all together made this a totally new Apple Watch experience for me.
There's a compass here, and Apple made a very big deal about the compass on the watch.
2 words, totally worthless.
I have tried it. It tells me directions, it'll help me with maps. I don't really care that much about a compass. That is not a reason for me to upgrade to a Series 5, especially if you're coming from a Series 4.
So not only would I probably never use the compass because I don't care to use the compass, but I also can't find it on the watch. No matter how many times I look through all the apps, I just cannot find that compass icon, and I've kind of given up and resolved myself to the fact that it's not there and I don't really care anyways.
So all those issues have kind of been plaguing the Series 5, the software bugs. And as a testament to how good the Apple Watch is and how far beyond it is from the competition, I almost don't care. And I'm willing to work through and have those bugs for the utility that I get from the Apple Watch. I've become very reliant on it for notifications. I use walkie-talkie to talk to my wife. I love having it on my wrist. And those slight annoyances I can overlook with the idea that hopefully it will get better. And the Apple Watch Series 5 does everything the Apple Watch can do very well. So start with what's different. The always-on display, it works as advertised. It's always on. I like that if I'm in any sort of app or other screen, the always-on display goes on. It just shows me the time. That's been nice to have. I don't have to sort of do the sometimes rude this motion to get things to work. So it does exactly what you would expect it to do, which is kind of typifies the whole Apple Watch experience.
So the health features are important to me. It's kind of why I use the watch. I like to track workouts. I like to track kind of my heart rate and my steps throughout the day. So that's been super nice. I haven't used any of the ECG features or anything, but I do have more peace of mind knowing that if I was to get in an accident, having that emergency SOS and fall detection built in does give me a little bit of a peace of mind if something was to happen. My loved ones would be contacted, but I feel like the heart rate sensor, the stuff that was with the Series 2 has gotten a little bit better in the Series 5, but I haven't really gone to great lengths to use any of the additional heart stuff.
So what the Series 5 boils down to for me now, about 1 month later, is it is certainly not perfect, but it is the most perfect of the wearables out there right now. And it's not even close to how far ahead it is from the competition. And I can deal with those shortcomings. If you have an Apple Watch Series 4, hold on to it. There's very little reason to go to a Series 5.
probably keep the Series 5 for another generation or two. Obviously, there's rumors that maybe Series 6 will be a little less disappointing than Series 5, so if Apple does do something crazy, I probably would be a little bit more tempted to upgrade, but if it's something small and incremental, I'll stick with the Series 5.
If you're coming from something like Rick Roberts' experience from a Series 2, a Series 3, or maybe you've got the very first gen, it is a gigantic upgrade. You get the benefit of all the experience and all the iterative generations that have come before it to get to the Series 5. If you do decide to spend the money for an Apple Watch Series 5, the prices are all over the board, up to $1,500. What you will get is a watch that worked as advertised. I just wish it would work longer throughout the day.